Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash entitled people. In today's episode, my pregnant ex keeps trying to move into my apartment. My friend offered to buy my house for $1. My entitled boss laid me off for refusing to come in on my weekend off. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My pregnant ex keeps trying to move into my apartment. This is not my story. This is my friend's story that I'm posting for him because he doesn't have a Reddit and wants people to hear about this. Also, for convenience, I'm going to write this in first-person POV because pronouns are hard to keep up with. Everything here is approved by my friend. So I, 21M, have an ex, Angelica, 20F. Angelica and I had an on and off relationship since we were about 15 but got serious when COVID hit and I had to move back to my hometown. We got an apartment together and very soon after she started spending a lot of time with her cousin. Long story short, she's boning her cousin. We break up. We've been broken up 9 months at this point. For 7 of those months, her phone has been on my phone bill and she owes me over $500. Fine. Whatever. I'll never see that $500 and she always makes excuses to pay me back. That's life, my own fault for letting her keep using me as a cash cow. She also took my car when we broke up and I let her because I was too afraid she would try to take my apartment too. Anyway, it's 9 months past our breakup. I get a message. Hey, I'm pregnant. I'm on my way home from work so I don't respond. That is 9 months past being my problem, it is not my baby. She messages me again. My boyfriend, the one she cheated on me with, and I have nowhere to stay. Still 9 months past my problem. Angelica has never worked a day in her life, she lives off the disability check from her boyfriend and spends it 99% on weed and fast food. She never paid rent and is documented to never pay rent. Anyway, she tells me my name is still on the lease, we're going to move in September. I tell her your name is not on the lease, it was renewed last month and I took your name off. I'm sorry. She messages me calling me an asshole and saying she's moving in because she has nowhere for her baby and 3 dogs to stay. Mind you, my apartment is more like a studio and barely fits me, let alone 2 other people and 3 dogs. I tell her it's not happening, I'm moving out of town soon anyway, also come pick up her shit that she's left at my apartment for 9 months. She says no, and if I throw it away she's going to press charges. I tell her it doesn't matter because when I move I'm throwing it away. She later called my landlord and told him I was planning to move out. I got upset at this and told her I ran the numbers on the car, it's still in my name. Get the car out of my name now or I'm repossessing it or she can leave me alone. She started bawling on a call asking how I could do this to her and her unborn child, and I was condemning her and her child to be homeless. She also still has a gun in my name that I told her to give back or I'm calling the cops. I'm really considering repossessing the car since it was mine from the start and is still in my name. She doesn't deserve to get a free car handed to her, she needs to wake up. She keeps saying she needs a place to stay, I'm ruining her and her baby's life. It's literally my apartment, that she has never once paid rent on. I don't know how she thinks she's entitled to just live in my apartment with the guy she cheated on me with and 3 dogs. I hope the baby ends up okay, it's not its fault its mother is a spoiled brat, but I also hope being homeless and carless wakes her up. Tiny update, my friend said his ex is coming to pick up her shit tomorrow and return the gun. If he gets shot I'll let you guys know, I guess. Update, her and her boyfriend, fake cousin, came to my friend's apartment, returned the gun and picked up her shit. Her boyfriend then proceeded to wave his own gun around and demand to be put back on the lease, not how that works. My friend called the cops, they booked it out of there before the cops arrived. I'm not sure about the rest. Sorry, edit for more clarification. Also, no response back from him, so I don't know at this point. Alright, final update, phone is not on the phone bill, her stuff is out of his apartment, his gun is returned, dog is in his possession, still no car. He said it's not worth it at this point. My friend asked for no charges, so I doubt anything will happen. He said he's cutting her out of his life, no contact. I'm personally upset about the car, but nothing to do about it now. Dude. Your friend needs to file several police reports, like yesterday. First and foremost, for the firearm that SHE has in her possession that's registered in his name. If he hasn't reported it stolen, and she uses it in any kind of crime, he's gonna get charges on him for not keeping track of it, at the very least. And the car, who has the title? Did he sign it over to her? If not, that needs to be reported stolen as well. He has the title. She also regularly tries to take his dog because she uses it as an emotional support animal, even though there's no legal work for this. She keeps saying she's taking him to court but has no money, so I don't know what her plan is. Your friend is a doormat. And really dumb. Report the firearm as stolen. Bad things happen when jobless addicts have firearms, and that firearm is in your name. As to the car, a good time to give her stuff back is when you repossess the car. Again, still in your name, and you can very well be held at least partly responsible if they do something stupid or get into an accident with it. When her stuff is gone, you have either the firearm/car back, or have police reports they have possession of these things, then block her in every way possible. Not your monkeys to deal with. My friend offered to buy my house for $1. Sorry in advance for the long post. Not sure if this fits the subreddit, so sorry if it doesn't, I just seriously need to vent. Some backstory: I, 31F, grew up pretty poor. I don't remember it well, but at one point my parents and I were only able to afford to eat beans and rice. My parents have since been able to pull out of poverty, and while they aren't rich, they are comfortable, and I have used a lot of what I experienced as a kid as motivation to be super careful with my money. I got a job in high school, worked odd jobs on the side, saved up every penny, rode my bike everywhere instead of driving and paying for gas, and by the time I moved out of my parents' place I had a little over $17,000 in my savings. I don't have that much tucked away anymore, but I have investments and emergency funds and take my family's finances incredibly seriously, as I never want my children to experience what I did as a kid. Mine and my husband's financial choices afforded us the opportunity to purchase a home in the beginning of 2015, which we bought 50-50 with his mother. He paid his half up front, I made a large down payment, and his mother covered the rest with an escrow agreement that I would pay off what she had purchased. I have since completely paid my half, and the house is fully owned by myself and my husband. It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 2-story home with a finished basement, attached 2-car garage, on a double lot. We got the house for an absolute steal at only $118,000, for sale by owners. Since purchasing, we have installed a fence, updated the oven, washer and dryer, water heater, furnace, and paid for materials to have all the interior rooms repainted. The only updates it needs are purely cosmetic, as the exterior paint is an ugly brown-pink color, which we have started repainting and need to finish. The hardwood floors have some distortion due to it being a 100-plus-year-old house and us having dogs when we lived there, and the bathroom could use an update, but structurally speaking doesn't need one. Needless to say, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being tear down the house and start over and 5 being it's ready to put on the market to sell for $300,000 today, the house is sitting at a 3.5 to 4. Backstory complete. Let's get into what has become my biggest headache for the past 4 years. I have a friend, let's call her Carly, F27, who had incredibly similar experiences to me growing up, but struggles with finances and has never seemed to get the hang of keeping any sort of savings over $50 at a time. I'm not sure if it's a lack of self-control, or that she's simply too focused in the moment when she gets paid and doesn't think to look in the long term, but she consistently makes her lack of funds everyone else's problem. I don't blame her for having issues with money, as learning to create a budget isn't exactly taught in school, and it took me years to learn to find a healthy balance, and the freedom of being able to buy whatever you want with no restrictions is super tempting, but at some point you have to learn to take responsibility. During the course of our friendship, I have helped her build countless budgets based off of my own. I made roughly the same amount of money as her, but each time they failed for whatever reason. We tried different ways to try to trick her brain into realizing that money sitting in her account wasn't to be touched, as everything needed to be used for bills, etc., and each time she would wind up still using every penny. It finally came to the point where I refused to help her with her budget anymore, because she never listens to my advice, and when I pointed out the easiest and fastest method to get her spending under control was to get a payee, she said she didn't need to be treated like a child who receives an allowance. Fair enough. I washed my hands of that topic. Carly moved out of her mom's house a little over 6 years ago and into a mutual friend's place. Let's call her Tia, F27. As far as I have been told by Tia, Carly paid little to nothing in rent, even though they both worked at the same company and made close to the same salary. Carly's living space was an absolute disaster. She moved into the basement and it was lucky if there was even a walkway to get to the washer and dryer. She constantly asked me to come over to help her clean and organize her space, and because I'm a people pleaser, I would always agree. Each time we would make significant progress, but then by the next weekend when I would come over to help again, it was as if a tornado had gone through her space in the course of the week. I have no idea how she was able to fit so much stuff into that tiny space. She would never clean up on her own or make any sort of effort to put anything away and would always wait for me to come over, and if anyone were to come down to watch us, it was always me cleaning or organizing while she sat back and dictated where everything went. Getting her to donate or throw anything away was like pulling teeth, as somehow even the smallest scrap of paper had some sort of sentimental value. After a little over a year of them living together, Tia couldn't handle it anymore and asked Carly to find some other living situation. She wasn't going to throw her onto the street, but she literally couldn't live with Carly any longer. There are a lot of other things that built up that caused this, but I won't go into that here. It just so happened that my husband and I had purchased a second home around this same time. What we had owed on the first was paid off, my husband had come into an inheritance, and we were able to look for our forever home that better fit our wants and needs. The best part for us is that the new house was literally a 5-minute drive from the old house. We had yet to decide whether we wanted to sell or rent our first house when Carly approached us with the offer of renting it from us. She and 2 other friends were looking to move in together, and with the house being as big as it was, there was plenty of space for all of them to have their own room and privacy. Since we hadn't yet decided if we wanted to sell, and there were 3 renters already lined up, we decided to use it as a means of passive income to invest in our future, and then down the road we would revisit whether or not we wanted to sell it or keep it as a rental. The red flag that I didn't initially pick up on was that Carly was already referring to the house as her house to her 2 potential roommates even before moving in or signing a lease, so by the time it came to them all moving in, Carly had driven the other 2 girls to back out. The way I had written the original lease agreement was that the rent was flexible depending on how many tenants there were, so for the 3 of them they would have only been paying $750 total per month, and if only one person was renting it would be $400 per month. In this area you can expect to rent a bedroom for $400, so this was a crazy good deal as we really didn't need the money and it was mainly to pay for insurance, power/heat, and property taxes. In the 4 years that Carly has lived in that house, rent has gone up 4 times. Once to $500 a month because the power bill went up and we needed to adjust for that, the second time to $550 a month due to the same reason, the third time to $750 after she got a new job, and last year in October, more on that later. Also in the 4 years she has lived here, 2 separate opportunities for roommates have backed out. Each time because she was setting the rules and referring to the property as her house despite having zero claim to it, and the fact that each person would have their own lease agreement. When she first moved in she was working a minimum wage paying job and she was my friend, hence the low monthly rent, but a year and a half ago got a new job at a local university, 30-minute drive away, that pays very well and has great benefits, but somehow she manages to blow through her entire paycheck on I don't even know what. Also during the course of these past 4 years she wound up owing me $750 in back rent as she repeatedly was unable to pay me the full monthly amount due to repeated miscalculations in her budget and overspending on garbage, which she then stuffed into mine and my husband's property. My husband and I realized after a couple years of being landlords that we aren't cut out for it. We have too much on our own plates and had no time for upkeep, and Carly wasn't holding up her end of the rental agreement that she had signed. We talked about it and settled on the decision to sell, but we of course didn't want to throw Carly onto the street and informed her of our plan. She proposed to buy it from us and started going through the route of getting a loan. During this process she realized that the house wasn't what she wanted. She wanted land and the house itself was far too big for her. She told us that and we understood, and I even helped drive her to meet with realtors so she could check out other options to buy houses elsewhere, but each one fell through as she discovered that she wasn't going to get a new homeowner's discount or bargain with any loans that she looked at, and all of the loans required at minimum of a 10% down payment, which she of course didn't have. This is where the entitlement starts. Carly wasn't going to be able to buy a home, at least not the home she wanted, and settled on buy our house. We had briefly talked at the very beginning of her tenancy that we may consider a rent-to-own situation, but no agreement had been made. No sale price had been decided, no appraisals or property inspections completed, nothing had been signed. It was simply a comment that we had made in passing and then chatted about later, again in passing. She took it as gospel truth and said that if she bought the house that she expected the 2.5 years of rent she had paid us to be comped off the total sale of the house. I reminded her that we never signed anything about a rent-to-own and informed her that wasn't how this was going to work. Her next tactic was to try to suggest that we quitclaim deed the property to her, again without her paying us anything additional to the 2.5 years worth of rent she had already paid us. How this works is that whoever owns the property grants the title/deed to whoever they're giving it to, and it's generally a lot faster and cheaper than going through the process of buying a house, but there is still generally something paid for the property when the title is transferred. At this point she'd only paid about $10,000 in rent, more than half of which went to paying for utilities that we covered instead of having her pay them and property taxes, and she was making it sound as if she wasn't going to give us anything beyond that. I again told her that this would not be a viable option. The house was in great condition, and even with the exterior paint and repairs to the floors and bathroom was worth at least what we had paid for it, $118,000. She tried to spin it that she was doing us a favor by taking it off our hands, as I had expressed to her that we were tired of being landlords and it was more effort than we had time for. Her last attempt at buying the house on her own was to offer me $1. That's right. A single dollar. I will admit, I don't know if this was a failed joke attempt on her part, but it certainly fell flat and I was so mad I was shaking, though I laughed it off. Side note, during the time she has lived in the house, my husband and I have some stuff stored in the garage, as Carly parked on the street due to convenience, and she suggested on multiple occasions that she start charging us rent for storing things in our own house when none of it was in her way whatsoever, and we had already made it clear that if she purchased the house that we would remove all of our property. At the end of 2022, Carly started dating Reggie, 28M. They were long distance and would take turns visiting each other, and Carly made the comment to Reggie that we were looking to sell the house, and we threw out a couple numbers, the very lowest being $100,000, but said that we of course would have to have an appraisal and look at market value, etc. He offered to buy it from us and said that he would start the process in March/April of 2023. I was relieved, my husband was relieved, Carly was relieved, everything was looking great. Some information about Reggie at the time: he is a retired Marine. He gets a monthly check from the government for close to $2,000 on top of his well-paying job. I'm guessing based on what Carly told me, but at the time he made his offer he was probably making between $4,500 to $5,000 a month. When March/April came around, Carly and Reggie informed us that he would not be able to afford paying both his rent where he lived and a monthly mortgage payment and wouldn't be able to start the purchase process then, but would start the purchase process in October instead when he planned to move in with Carly. Before Reggie moved in, an ex-friend offered to rent a room in the house from Carly and pay her despite subletting being clearly stated in the lease agreement as prohibited. Carly so generously offered to pay us some of the amount that she was paid. The agreement fell through and the friend did not stay in the room. I'm not exactly sure why he chose to do things the way he did, but Reggie didn't start the purchase process at all until after he had moved and quit his job, meaning the only source of income he had to show to a mortgage company was the monthly stipend from the government, which even with a veteran's loan doesn't work as proof of income. When he moved in, rent increased to $1,000 a month, which is still under value for the size of the home, and a brand new rental agreement was written and signed stating that if they had not started the buying process to purchase the house from us by mid-April of 2024, that we would not be renewing the lease, nor would we work with them on month-to-month rental options, as myself and my husband are completely and totally over this mess. We also stated in the rental agreement that we were not going to list the house for sale as a sign of good faith to allow Reggie and Carly first choice on the house to buy it. Here's a rapid-fire list of things that have happened since October. Reggie paid the $750 that Carly owed to me in back rent. Carly and Reggie informed us at some point either late November or early December that they would not be buying the house as the repairs required amounted to more than $50,000. I don't know where they got this number, as I have budgeted on multiple occasions to redo the flooring and it would be less than $15,000 to redo the entire house, nor would repainting cost more than a few thousand, or the bathroom remodel, as they intended to do the work themselves. We repaired the major damage in the bathroom recently for less than $500. They could not acquire rental housing due to having 3 cats and will indeed be staying in the house. We informed them we are not renewing the lease and reiterated our reasoning. I made the mistake of telling Carly what we owed on our mortgage, and they turned around and offered us $50,000 to buy the house from us, less than 1/3 the market value of the house if we sold it as is. We politely declined and then promptly went home and screamed into pillows. They have repeatedly told Tia that they are desperate for money to the point of debating setting up a GoFundMe, all the while Carly has gotten 2 brand new tattoos in the past year, and has an international trip she has paid for in full that she is going on at the end of March, and Reggie has still not acquired even a part-time job. We emergency installed a water heater that Reggie paid for that I will have fully paid back by the end of March. Carly quit her job and now the only income they will have after the end of this week is Reggie's military stipend. Carly nonchalantly stated that we would have to renegotiate rent for this month and next month. There will be no negotiations. She made a bad decision and will have to live with the consequences of her actions. The most recent thing she did was text me 2 days ago asking if she could pay me in food for this month's rent. Knowing her, the amount she will pay will amount to only a couple meals and maybe $75 in groceries instead of the roughly $500 that they will owe. I owe Reggie roughly $500 left to pay off the last bit of the water heater. I jokingly answered that the electricity and insurance companies don't accept food as payment, so neither can I. She then offered to pay me what it would cost to pay these expenses and then the rest she would pay in food. I have not responded. It's been a day and a half. They will pay me in cash and nothing else. I'm done. No discussion. My warning to all of you, don't mix business and friends without getting to know said friends very well first. If I had known what I would be walking into, I never would have allowed her to move it. So many red flags ignored over and over. You knew she was a dumpster fire when she lived with Tia. Why would you think that she would be better when she was renting from you? I don't know how the husband agreed to this. I am sure he heard lots of stories from OP. My stupid, naive self hoped that the other 2 roommates would keep her in check, and I didn't learn until after she'd signed the lease that the other 2 had backed out. I'm too easy on people and far too forgiving, and I know that's all on me. That's all on you for being a doormat. Man, you're so right. After the first couple of paragraphs I gave up. Time to hire a lawyer and evict Carly. Bro, this is the longest thing I've ever seen. You're doing this to yourself. It's now March 2024, which is exactly the time to start the eviction process if you want to uphold your own words and have them out by April 2024. Stop with this nonsense already. I'm having a really hard time feeling bad for you in any way regarding this woman. I can't even wrap my head around why you would have rented to her to begin with. You knew she was a slob. You knew she was completely unable to handle her finances. So you rent out your house to her? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Of course she wasn't paying what she should have. That's how this woman operates. And she gets away with it because people like you enable her. My entitled boss laid me off for refusing to come in on my weekend off. I've been in retail since 2009. And my now last job, I was there since 2014. I won't go into huge details about the work environment. A lot of that can be seen on my profile of other job posts. But to summarize, in the whole time I was there, my boss, despite always saying family time is important, he would always screw over my personal time off. When I worked directly under him, a lot of times he would cancel my days off because he was taking a trip somewhere. Couple with that, and childish and immature coworkers who threw tantrums and gave silent treatments, I was at the end of my rope. My job mostly consisted of delivering building material. I had a certain certificate to operate a certain type of delivery truck. The certification was going to expire at the end of the year. About a week or so into January, HR came to do a review with me. During the review, they mentioned they are holding a course to revalidate the certification for everyone in the company in 2 weeks. They said, "It's on your weekend off, but are you able to attend?" I looked at my calendar and said I had plans booked that day, so it doesn't work to my schedule. My company wanted to get everyone done at once, that way they save money on group training. HR just said, "See what you can do to attend." And I said that the plans were set in stone, and things were left at that. About a week before the course, HR emailed again, saying this course is critical for my job, so to try and attend. I replied it doesn't work for my schedule. That I'd be happy to do it any other day, but this is going on during my weekend off, where I made plans well in advance, so it doesn't work for my schedule. For a few days, there was nothing else. My boss owns a few stores. And one worker from another store came by who was also going to the course. They told me he had been making plans with his fiancée for the last several months for that weekend, but had to cancel them because they suddenly revealed this training course and had to attend. He wasn't too happy. Plans he made for months had to be cancelled. I said nothing to him, figured it was his choice if he chose to do that. Then suddenly my boss began phoning me 2 days before the course. I recorded the conversation. Maybe in the future I'll upload it, but for now, I'll just transcribe what was said. AB will stand for A *** whole boss. And just for some context, earlier that week, I got a work truck stuck in the snow, and called a tow truck to pull me out, and paid for it myself. It will be important for what happens next. And this is roughly how it went. AB, hey OP, HR tells me you are unable to attend the training course. OP, that's correct. I unfortunately made plans in advance so I can't attend. AB, after a moment of silence. I need you to get this training done. OP, I understand that. But I made plans well in advance, that I can't just cancel. AB, okay. You realize when we notify you 2 weeks in advance, it doesn't mean it's optional. This is mandatory. At this point, I was starting to get mad. OP, I understand that. But I've been planning this weekend since early December. I'll be out a lot of money if I cancel. AB, what are you doing? OP, that is a private matter. I can't discuss that. AB, after a moment of silence, OP, how much is that towing bill costing me? OP, I paid for that myself because that was my screw up. AB, silent again for a few seconds, okay. Then you're gonna have to do this training on your own time and your own money then. The training itself cost only a few $100s, but by this point, I had it with my boss. OP, well, we will cross that bridge when we get there. AB, silent again, this is pretty rich coming from you. OP, well, I'm sorry. But I received no heads up, no communication this was being planned for that date. I know there were plans to do the training early December, but never heard anything about it since either September or October. AB, silence again, OP. I'm not happy right now. OP, well, I'm sorry. But I have a life, and I can't just cancel things when I make plans on my day off. AB, silence again. Okay. Good enough. Bye. OP, bye. So for a week, I heard nothing. Continued my job as normal while looking for a new job, because I had it with my boss. 9 years of all this, I had reached my breaking point during that phone call. This boss has always screwed me over for my personal time off, and this was the last straw of trying to force me to come in on my scheduled weekend off. And then 1 week later, towards the end of the day, HR showed up. They informed me they were laying me off due to extremely slow season, with hopes of having me come back in spring. I said nothing, choosing to leave on a high note. But I knew it was really their way of firing me without firing me. That way, they avoid paying severance, which would have been in the tens of thousands of dollars. I estimated between $10,000 and $40,000. I already looked into it. Unfortunately, I have no real way of proving this as retaliation. All their paperwork, though I know a lie, say I was laid off for lack of work, etc. The only proof I have is recently, I had to contact the insurance provider for my company to get a letter of experience from them. The agent I spoke with said he recognized my name, saying my now former employer recently removed me from their insurance coverage. Other than this backhanded move, I'm glad to be out of there. I was unhappy, stressed, and fed up. I'm using the time to advance my driver's license to have the highest one I can get in my country. If anyone is curious to know what stories in my profile pertain to this company, or this boss, feel free to look or message me, and I'll tell you which ones they are. Please see an employment lawyer. I think you can do something about the severance. I might down the road. I have to be careful though. Because they laid me off, I qualify for a government program where I can upgrade my credentials and the government pays for it. If I fight my now former employers, it could hurt my chances of my approval for the government assistance. So I'm treading lightly per se. I am in the UK, so I know things are very different. But I would look at their website and see if they're recruiting for a replacement driver. If they are, then I'd copy that advert and use it as proof they lied about it being slow and no longer requiring your services. Then, speak to a lawyer for advice about how you can proceed. I'm pretty sure this would work in the US too. I'd say they would have to be pretty stupid to advertise for the same job after laying him off, but this is the US and the big orange dumbass is about to get the Republican nomination again. For 30 years as a nurse, if I made the mistake of answering my phone in my office day, I always just had a glass of wine. Oh well, can't go to work if I had wine, no can I? I'm sure they thought I was a functioning alcoholic. You need to stop apologizing so much in conversations with bosses. They view it as a sign of weakness and step all over you for it. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.